That's a good idea.
These are a pair of shorts made by Patagonia. They have a liner in them, so like that's all I wear, right? One pair of shorts that's on my body from the time I hit the trail to the time I get back. I'll swim in them, I'll live in them, I'll sleep in them, I'll do everything in them. So, and like swimming is great because it kind of gets the funk out a little bit.
Yeah. If you have the opportunity.
Yeah. So when you're talking about hygiene not being on the 10 essentials.
But it is. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, if
relative
you're
thing.
doing any major hike along any one of the major trails in the U.S. that everybody likes to do, you're going to have river crossings, streams,
Oh, yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff where you actually can just dunk yourself in the water and everybody's out there sloshing around. That's
Clean
just
off.
the way
Sure.
that's your trail shower, is what they call it.
So a wicking t-shirt, socks. These are just low smart wool socks. I just wear trail runners. So I can get by with trail runners because I'm only carrying 25 pounds. And because I've also stretched out my ligaments in both sides of my feet by having, on both feet, by having sprains. So I can walk down the trail and turn my ankle or roll my ankle with a pack on and it doesn't injure me at all. But if you don't know your body, I would suggest starting out with something more substantial than this and probably something higher to give you more ankle support. When I got into backpacking, it was like you needed high boots, you needed ankle support. The philosophies have changed on that a little bit, but we're all not carrying 50-pound packs anymore either.
Right.
But generally, the more weight you have, the more the potential for injury if you roll an ankle or do something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Also, these are really flimsy on the bottom, so if you're not used to walking on pointy rocks and things with this kind of a soft thing, your bottom of your feet are going to ache at the end of the day. So I would suggest starting out with something more substantial than this. I carry a really little lightweight hat, mainly more for sun protection, because I don't have a lot of sun protection up here. So it's also really good for wicking sweat. If I'm going uphill and I'm starting to work up sweat, having this on will keep it from getting down to my brow and stuff. These are actually little gaiters. So, you know, if it goes through into your shoe, they clip down on the laces, and then you put a little Velcro thing on the back of your shoe, clips down there, this clips to the lace. So especially when you have low shoes, keeps a lot of the trail dirt.
Right.
Little pebbles, things like that out of your shoes.
Rocks.
Also, I go right through the streams with these shoes on. So all of that sediment that gets stirred up from the stream bottom doesn't get in my shoes. A more conventional approach to stream crossings would be to have something like Chacos or Tivas or something like that along. Change your shoes, go through the stream, put your boots back on. Okay? If you know that your feet are going to get wet, don't use Gore-Tex.
No.
Gore-Tex is intended to try to keep your feet dry. I know that I'm going to walk through streams. My feet are going to be immersed. Gore-Tex in a shoe like this, in that situation, will just make it so much harder and take longer for the shoe to dry out. So in my approach, I don't use Gore-Tex. If you are intending to try to keep your feet dry and you have an alternative for stream crossings, then sure, use Gore-Tex. Okay? So that's what's on my body on a typical day. And I can hike in pretty chilly weather. Like I will walk through rainstorms just wearing that. Because when I am on the move, my body's burning calories. And I'll just hike faster and stay warm. So I very rarely will backpack with a rain jacket on. It's got to be really cold, you know, for me to wear a rain jacket. Otherwise, I'll just sweat inside the rain jacket.
Or it's raining for days.
Yeah, or if I'm around camp and it's raining, yeah. But so that's typical of what I'm wearing.
What about camp shoes? Like a lot of people I've seen saying, you know, they carry a camp shoe.
A lot of people do that. That's also a place where
Is that a personal
Tivas,
preference? Yeah.
Chacos, and things
Yeah.
like that. A lot of people will take those. You know, if you're carrying heavier boots and things, it's great to get your feet out, let them breathe in something more comfortable. Because my shoes are so light, I'm just in those 24/7 pretty much.
And what size is this bag?
This is a 55-liter pack,
Okay.
and this is actually probably more pack than what I need. But again, I was buying this pack and I wanted to give myself more margin for, you know, a different type of trip where maybe I needed more gear. When I teach classes, when I lead like overnight backpacking trips for REI, I'll actually carry more gear and more weight for a one-night class because of instructor things I need to bring and a massive first aid kit. So I have extra capacity. This has a top that you can use, but it's also removable. So as far as additional clothing, because I'm very minimal on what I take, I don't have a lot of stuff sacks for organizing things. So one of the techniques I picked up from a Knowles instructor was all of my clothing is right here, and you talked about being able to get to things easily. I load my clothing in there, and everything has a sleeve or a leg that's coming up to the top. So if I need my rain jacket, I can pop the top of this open, grab the sleeve, and there's my rain jacket, right? It's not buried down in the bottom.
That's hilarious.
So there's my rain jacket. This is this is a wind shirt, so I can wear this just when the chill starts to set in. It's also great. It's more of a dense weave, so it helps keep the wind from penetrating your clothes. So it's really like a long sleeve shirt on steroids, I'd say.
Nice.
When I grab this shirt, usually it's in the evening, like I'm getting ready for dinner, as an example. I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna enjoy dinner. It might be starting to get dark, it might be starting to cool off. So usually I'll grab this shirt to take with me, and in the pocket of my shirt is my headlamp. So I can sit by the fire and enjoy dinner, and if it starts to get dark, I'm not running back to my tent to find my headlamp. So pockets of clothing and things like that are also handy places to organize things without taking the extra weight of a stuff sack.
That's good, yeah.
Okay. I also learned that from the Knowles guys. This is my insulating layer, a down jacket. So when it starts to really get cold, this will be the layer I put on. At night, this is my pillow. So I basically just flip the sleeve inside out, stuff everything into the sleeve. I'll even stuff my rain jacket in there, and it comes out to be about that big, and that's my pillow.
Nice.
When I grab this, I have my clean socks, so I have 2 pair of socks. That's the only thing that I have 2 of. So the pair of socks on my body, they're my trail socks. Try to keep them as clean as I can. These socks are what I wear to sleep in. So they are always nice and soft and nice and clean. I can wash my feet at the end of the day. I can put these on and I'm really comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. So dirty socks and clean socks.
Nice.
And then I carry a buff just as an extra layer of headwear. I'll sleep in it, help keep my head warm. So when it cools off. And then the only other layer, typically the only other layer that I have on the bottom is a light pair of wind pants. These are not fully waterproof, but again, you know, I'm cranking out heat. Once I start backpacking, I just like crank out the heat. So I can wear these in a light rain and the rain will hit them and just my body heat will evaporate it. And I'm gonna shelter under something, typically. If it's really coming down, I'm gonna find shelter under trees or whatever. So I can stay warm enough in this. If I know it's gonna be really, really cold, sometimes I'll throw in an extra pair of long underwear bottoms, just for that extra insulation. But most of the time I can get by with just that. So that's completely the clothing that I have.
What was the last thing? Are those pants that are made of? Like
They're like, yeah, they're called wind pants.
wind pants?
So they help. Yeah, they're really, really lightweight. If you want to come up and check any of the stuff out at the end, you can. They're really lightweight. They're really, really quick drying. Again, they're kind of a dense weave so that the wind doesn't blow through them. And that's really, and they're like 5 ounces. So believe me, I know, like I have a spreadsheet that tells me every item that I have in my pack, what it weighs, down to the 1/10 of an ounce. So beyond that, this is about what a week's worth of food will look like for me. It'll be about 9 pounds for like I'd say like a 7-night trip, probably around 9 pounds. General rule of thumb for food is about 1.5 pounds per person per day, but I'm probably less than 1.25 pounds. And it'll take up this much space in my pack. And that's one thing I was getting to back there with the backpacks. You know, if you buy a larger pack and you don't need the capacity, just think about what this pack is gonna look like when this bag isn't in there at the end of my trip, right? I
Right.
start out, and this is taking up probably over half of my main compartment in my pack. And at the end of the trip, this thing's gonna be just my trash, and maybe a couple extra Cliff Bars or something.
Right.
So I just tighten up the compression straps and I can still carry that pack underpacked. Okay?
Right. Nice.
So that's food.
I would love to talk more about food.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is my tarp. So this guy is probably about 9 ounces or something like that. It's, I think, 6 by 8. Nylon, silicone treated nylon. This is one of those REI flash pads that I had out there. So if I'm not taking my really lightweight ridge rest, I decided sometimes luxury is, or comfort is appreciated. So this is the regular wide size. So I either am going like 8 ounces for the ridge rest or 1 pound 3 ounces for this, depending on what weight I want to carry. And that, well, that's in the spreadsheet, so I can just say, yes, I'm carrying this, or no, I'm not carrying this, and it totals it all up.
Nice.
For my cook set, I saw a guy in here one time while I'm opening this up. He was walking around with a cart, and he had his MacBook Air in the baby seat of his cart, and he's got his spreadsheet open, and he's looking at the packaging on all the stuff that he was thinking about buying.
goodness.
He's tying it all in, and
Wow.
he's totaling up what's this all going to weigh before he committed to buying anything.
That's awesome.
It's like
So-
an ultralighter.
I never thought
Yeah.
about that.
They do a
So
lot of that.
my cook set, this is just a little koozie I made out of pipe insulation that you buy at Home Depot for putting around your copper pipes in your house,
What'd you make that for?
because it keeps my coffee nice and warm.
Nice.
It's like
In
a
here.
cozy.
Yeah, it's a koozie, basically.
Very cool.
So a little titanium pot, which sometimes that's my bowl, sometimes that's my cup. It's my coffee mug in the morning because I'll do like 16-ounce grande coffee in there. And I'll eat my granola out of here, and then sometimes my dinner is in there, and then I have a beverage out of here. This is an alcohol stove,
Oh,
just made out of the bottom of 2 Pepsi cans, Coke cans.
yeah.
So just uses denatured alcohol. So lots of little fun do-it-yourselfer kinds of things you can get into in backpacking.
Yeah.
A little Bic lighter and a little measuring cup, because if you're using alcohol, you want to measure it out, and you kind of get used to how much alcohol does it take to like bring 2 cups of water to a boil or whatever it is. So I just carry the alcohol in a plastic bottle because it's not volatile as weight gas, and it doesn't have to be stored under pressure, so you can save a lot of weight with it, and that's lightweight people really like alcohol for that. So I pre-measure out the amount that I think I need so that it's just kind of burning out about the same time the water comes to a boil, or maybe a little bit after.
What kind of alcohol do you like to use for that?
It's denatured alcohol.
Denatured alcohol.
Yeah. You can use ethyl alcohol, you can use like
was gonna-
Everclear,
Yeah.
but be careful because different states have different limits on the maximum alcohol concentration of that stuff. And it doesn't burn that well if it's not at least 95% alcohol.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you're not, would they hold stoves, backing stoves?
I have an MSR pocket rocket, so sometimes they take that. It just depends on a couple of things. Like if I'm flying, I have to plan where am I going to get my fuel and what am I going to do with the unused fuel, right? So I go with a group of people, and usually we're using canister stoves. And if I'm flying and I don't have access to anything, then I'll use a canister stove because it's easy to get rid of the canisters usually. But often, like one of my friends will drive to where we're going, and so we can load them up with fuel. So then I'll send my alcohol with him, and then they'll bring it back for me, and I don't have to worry about, because you buy alcohol in like a big can at the hardware store. It's way more than what I need. If you're places like the PCT and things like that, I've been in like outfitters along the PCT where you can walk in and they will just fill your bottle and charge you for whatever alcohol you need to fill
Really?
your bottle. Yeah. So it depends, that's part of your upfront research you can do.
Is jet oil kind of overkill?
Jet oils are great. A lot of people love jet oil. It's way more weight. I forget what my pocket rocket in this pot come to A JetBlue is like 13 ounces, I think, in my Pocket Rocket in this pod. Now, not counting fuel for either of them. It's like 6.5 ounces or something like that. So, JetBlues are real popular. They're real convenient. But to me, if I'm shaving ounces, I'm not going to carry a JetBlue. And then stuff down here in the bottom is my sleeping bag. Now, notice I don't have it in a stuff sack, right? Everything in my pack is in a trash compactor bag. That's my waterproofing. That thing goes in first, everything gets jammed down on top of it. Do I need a compression stuff sack? No. Jamming all that stuff down on top of it compresses it really, really well.
That makes sense.
And it fills into the bottom of the pack.
That makes sense.
If you buy a backpack with a bottom compartment, you can put your sleeping bag in a stuff sack, and then you end up with all these voids around it because
Right.
there's some space that you're not using there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Or added space for luxury items you don't want there.
Yeah. On the outside pockets of my pack, well, I carry one trekking pole. I mentioned that. My satellite communicator. My toiletries are basically some sunscreen, toothbrush, toothpaste, and a little thing of lip balm. That's it. And tent stakes, my throw bag with 50 feet of parachute cord, which sadly needs to be probably replaced. Or on the other side, I have a trowel, which you would need. This is what I carry for water bottles. They're it's a brand of juice that you buy at Bolthouse Farms, I think. You buy it at HEB. The juice is delicious. I've been carrying these bottles for a couple of years.
Wow.
They get,
A lot of people use the smart water bottles or whatever.
Yeah,
depending on what-
I do.
There's a lot of, the thing that I like about these is they're kind of tapered at the
And
bottom,
they're light,
so they go into the
They
pocket
slide
of the
in
pack
easier.
real easily. If I forget to uncork them when I go on a plane, they'll like suck in, with the changes in pressure.
Right.
So that's why they have these dents in them. But yeah, so you don't have to like carry a full Nalgene bottle and stuff like that.
As far as water filters, can we touch on that now or later?
Yeah, let me get through this.
Okay.
A map. I always have a map for the area I'm going to, a good topographic map. This is Thruhike house rat. So if I'm carrying that sleeping pad, because that sleeping pad can get punctured, this goes down first as my ground sheet, and the sleeping pad goes on top of it. Because I'm never going to put that thing directly on the ground and risk puncturing it. Okay. If I'm using that other one, the foam pad deal, that just goes right on the ground.
Sorry, what's that paper called?
Thruhike it's a house rat.
You can get it at Home Depot or Lowe's or anything.
It's hard to find it in small quantities, unfortunately.
You have to get them to cut it.
If you can go buy a building site or something and they have scraps of it, that's great.
That's true.
In the pockets of my hip belt, I have a pencil for making notes and doing things on my map if I want to. I have just a little single blade pocket knife, which I hardly ever use unless I'm like cleaning fish or something. If I catch fish and I'm going to eat them, I have a compass, and then I have my water treatment. So it's a chemical water treatment called Aquamira. And this is just a little 1 ounce Nalgene bottle with Dr. Bronner's liquid soap in it for washing, hygiene, stuff like that.
Nice.
Okay. And that's it. So what am I missing out of the
First
10
aid.
essentials?
First aid kit.
I am. And you know why? I couldn't find it when I was looking at my pack. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But good. Yeah, you notice that. I do have a small first aid kit. It just has some Band-Aids, some moleskin, some 2x2 gauze pads and tape. And then over-the-counter medications. Like I always carry ibuprofen, Benadryl in case of an allergic reaction to something, and Imodium, because if you've ever had any kind of intestinal issues on a backpacking trip, it is brutal.
Yeah.
So, so I carry that. And that's really it. It's pretty minimal. I keep some thread and a needle stuck in a little piece of foam in there too for like a little repair. I think I have one of those little duct tape rolls that we sell out here. I think I have one of those in there. So it's kind of a little first aid / repair kit. And that's it. Any questions on any of this stuff? Yeah.
Do you have any experience with using a bear canister? Because at the
Yeah.
King range, they said you have to have it.
Yeah, I have a bear canister.
It feels like it's going to take a lot of space.
It does, but you know what? My bear canister is not that much bigger than that food bag, so it would certainly fit in this pack. The pack that I was carrying before this was probably about 50 liters, and it would fit in there. It adds a couple of pounds
Right.
to the weight, and like I did a trip in the Sierras where I had to take it, and I think it was 7 nights, and I had to repackage all my food. All my freeze-dried food had to go into Ziplocs out of the original packaging, because I had everything in except for my first day's lunch and dinner. I had to cram into that
Right.
bear canister.
Yeah, they said you can't go in the park without.
Yeah, it was a tight. It was like I had no extra room in that thing at all. So that's another thing to be aware of, depending on where you're going, what the requirements are on that.
What kind of food do you pack for like a 3-day or
So-
3-night?
Breakfast is usually like granola, and I mix in some powdered milk and with the granola and package it into individual portions, and I eat that. I'll take some of the like freeze-dried breakfasts. Like Mountain House makes one called Breakfast Skillet, which is delicious. There's also a place that I buy food from called Packet Gourmet. They're actually based in Driftwood, but they don't have a brick and mortar store, so it's a completely online business. But they have some really good meals, and they also sell like all of the ingredients they use in their meals. They sell them as freeze-dried ingredients or dehydrated ingredients, so you can make your own things.
Nice.
You can find really cool stuff from them. They also have like little individual serving condiment packs. So you can buy like 1 pack of picante sauce from them if you want to, or any of that kind of stuff too. Rather than what I used to do is like go into like fast food places and just fill my pockets up with stuff.
Right.
Hot sauce. and-
Yeah.
What
Mayonnaise pack.
What about water for several days?
So the places that I go, water is plentiful and available. So
Like
I-
like water sources,
yeah,
streams,
so
and
I only carry maximum of 2 liters of water at a time
mhm.
in the places where I'm going to be. Sometimes I don't even carry that much, depending on how long the day is going to be, and if I know that I can just refill my water bottle all the way through the day. Either a filter. I used to carry a filter. If you don't know what the quality of the water is going to be, I would suggest a filter.
For sure.
In the mountain states at high elevations, you're looking at crystal clear water that's still coming from snow runoff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm never worried about foul odors and tastes and sediment and stuff. So it's really good. And then I just put a couple of drops of chemical in there. That kills anything that might be in there, and it's safe to drink.
Nice. I had a really amateur hour at Big Bend. It was my second long distance hike. We brought like 10 water bottles, the plastic ones, and we just drank through them. So the pack was nice and light by the time we were done. It was great.
Yeah, I know people who've not planned their water well enough at Big Bend. Yeah.
When it comes to water filtration, I mean, if you're kind of in that risky, don't know the water quality, if you're doing the filter, would you also want to treat it on top of that?
It's not necessary. Generally, it's accepted that anywhere in the U.S., in a backcountry situation, you do not have to be concerned about waterborne viruses. If you're not in the U.S., or you're not in a backcountry situation, then there could be other things in the water that viruses included, that you might have to be worried about. And the reason that I say that is most of your typical filters will not remove viruses. They'll remove all the other stuff that will make you sick, bacteria and protozoas and things like that, but they won't get viruses. If you're in a situation where the water needs to be filtered because of sediment and all that kind of stuff, and you're concerned about viruses, then a combination of both. But generally, you don't need to worry about viruses in the U.S. Okay, so then it comes down to a water quality issue to me. That's the kind of research I do up front. If I know I'm going someplace where the water is really pristine, and I just want to make sure that there's nothing in there because some deer, or wildlife got too close to the water and stuff like that, then I just use my chemical. If I was worried about cloudy, murky water and things like that, then I'd take my filter. Like I've pulled my water bottle out of algae ponds and the water's green because there's algae in it, and I'm drinking it green, right? So those are kinds of things to think about when I'm only carrying my chemical, because I can't get the algae out of the water, so it's green water.
Interesting.
But at least I know it's going to be safe for me to consume, right? It might not be that palatable, might not be that,
Tasty.
yeah, fun to drink. So any questions on that stuff?
Very interesting.
All right, let's get through the rest of this. Actually, here's a list of upcoming classes. There's a list, that yellow-green sheet of paper on the back table has a list of classes. They're also at the cash registers and stuff